So I'm sure all of you remember, or at least know about, the miracle in the new Meadowlands, a game where the Eagles popped off a huge comeback against the New York Giants to win 38-31 off of a walk-off punt return touchdown by DeSean Jackson. But this game has so much more to it. And this is not just an Eagles win or a Giants loss. This game, this one singular game, proved crucial to another team winning the Super Bowl that season, that being my Green Bay Packers. In this video, I'm going to explain just how this punt return touchdown that capped off an amazing comeback helped my Green Bay Packers win Super Bowl 45. So before we move on, I'm just going to give a quick recap of how this game unfolded. Basically, the Giants got off to a fast start. They went up 24-3 at halftime. Even though the Eagles would respond with a touchdown to begin the second half, the Giants would respond right back with yet another score. Eli Manning had a monster game, even though he eventually lost. But in the fourth quarter was when Michael Vick really unleashed chaos. He scored 21 points to tie it up at 31, and the Giants got stopped on third down. They lined up to punt, and yeah, I think you know how this one ended.
8.7 yards per return, has not returned one for a touchdown this year. Waits. And it's a line drive kick. Jackson bobbles it and now has to try and recover. DeSean Jackson gets a block! Are you kidding? DeSean Jackson still not in and now in for the touchdown.
So yeah, that's how that unfolded. But let's move on and talk about how this affected the Packers. So in 2010, the Packers were a much better team than their record and seeding would indicate. They were 8-4 at the time and were looking to get much higher seeding than the 6th seed, which was at the time the lowest seeding in the playoffs. But Rodgers got hurt. He got a concussion against the Lions. They would end up losing that game, and they would lose the next game to the Patriots with Matt Flynn at the helm. So they were now sitting at 8-6, and they needed to win their final 2 games to make it into the playoffs. But here's how that Giants-Eagles game actually helped the Packers. So at the end of the season, the Packers, Giants, and Buccaneers each had a 10-6 record, but the Packers would end up clinching that 6th seed with a 3-way tiebreaker over the two teams, especially because they would end up beating the Giants the week after the Patriots game, 45-17 on Christmas or the day after Christmas. It was a blowout, and then they would go on to beat the Bears to punch their ticket into the playoffs. Then they would go on their miracle Super Bowl run, beating the Eagles with the Tramon Williams interception. They would end up destroying the number 1 seeded Falcons 48-21. Then they would, I'd say lucky, it was a lucky win, but they would get the win against the Bears again, nevertheless, to punch their ticket into Super Bowl 45. And then the Packers would win one of the most impressive games I've ever seen in Super Bowl 45, winning 31-25 against the Ben Roethlisberger-led Steelers. Rodgers himself was amazing. He threw 3 touchdowns, and the defense played their part by getting 2 picks, including a pick 6, and forcing a fumble by Rashad Mendenhall just as the Steelers started to come back. And yes, the Steelers did stir up some anxiety in Packers fans by near the end of the game, but the Packers held their own. They managed to pull off the win and bring Green Bay their 4th Super Bowl title, and it's a memory that I don't think any Packers fan that remembers that day will ever forget. For all the crap that Rodgers gets for not getting back to the Super Bowl, which I understand, I think it's a mix between his defenses and him not showing up. For all the crap that he gets, he definitely balled out in his one showing, and he cemented his legacy right then and there. At least the following year, the Giants would get their revenge on the Packers by beating them in the divisional round before beating Tom Brady yet again in the Super Bowl. But this is how the Giants-Eagles game in Week 15 of the 2010 season ultimately helped the Packers win Super Bowl 45.